You're standing in a rural driveway at 3:47 in the afternoon. There's a man on the ground. His right leg is fountaining blood in rhythmic pulses, bright arterial red that's already pooling beneath him in a spreading black mirror. A circular saw kickback blade caught the femoral artery just below the groin. You've got maybe 30 seconds before he loses consciousness. 2, maybe 3 minutes before irreversible shock. 4 minutes before he's dead. His partner is next to him, hands shaking but moving fast. Good. She's been trained. She rips open the first aid kit mounted on the workshop wall and pulls out the tourniquet. Black nylon webbing, windlass rod, CAT logo printed clean on the strap. She threads it high on the thigh, as close to the hip as she can get, cinches it down, and starts twisting the windlass. 1 turn, 2 turns. The bleeding slows, 3 turns. The windlass rod snaps. Clean break. 2 pieces of hollow plastic now useless in her hands. The strap goes slack. The blood flow resumes. Full force. 30 seconds wasted. She's staring at the broken tourniquet, brain trying to process what just happened, and he's bleeding out in front of her. She tries to improvise. Belt, shirt, something. But she's lost time, lost pressure, lost the narrow window where a tourniquet would have kept him alive until the ambulance arrived. The ambulance is 40 minutes away. He dies in the driveway. The tourniquet looked perfect. Black webbing, reinforced buckle, combat application tourniquet printed right on it. It had a 4.5-star rating on Amazon, over 2,000 reviews. It cost $14. 99% with Prime shipping, arrived in 2 days in a sealed plastic bag. It looked identical to the real thing, but it wasn't a tourniquet. It was a death sentence in a plastic bag. Here's what you need to understand. Amazon, eBay, Wish, AliExpress, every major online marketplace is flooded with counterfeit medical gear. Fake cat tourniquets, fake Israeli bandages, fake chest seals, fake hemostatic gauze. We're not talking about lower quality or budget alternatives. We're talking about systematic, deliberate fraud. Gear designed to look real, packaged to deceive, sold with fake certifications and manipulated reviews, that will fail catastrophically when you need it most. And the scale is staggering. 90% of the tactical medical gear sold online is either counterfeit or so dangerously substandard it might as well be. This is a billion-dollar industry. It targets preppers, first responders, rural communities, and ordinary people who want to be ready for emergencies. The counterfeiters use stolen photos, fake NSN numbers, fabricated FDA approval stamps. They game the algorithm. They buy reviews. They operate through shell companies with names that are random strings of letters. HZTF top, ZJKOP, FRGENT, and when one storefront gets shut down, they open another the next day. And most buyers have no idea they're holding garbage until the moment they need it to work. By then, it's too late. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to stress test the most popular budget tourniquets sold online. I'm going to break them, measure them, freeze them, and show you exactly where they fail. I'm going to expose the counterfeit supply chain, how it's manufactured, how it's distributed, and why no one is stopping it. I'm going to teach you how to identify real gear versus fake, and I'm going to tell you exactly where to buy legitimate equipment that will actually save your life. Let's start by destroying some tourniquets. Medical gear isn't subjective. It's not a matter of opinion or preference or good enough for the price. A tourniquet either stops arterial bleeding or it doesn't. There's number 80% effective. There's no partial credit. It's pass or fail, and failure means death. So we're not going to rely on anecdotes or reviews or marketing claims. We're going to use the same objective, measurable standards that legitimate manufacturers must meet. Real combat application tourniquets, the ones actually issued to you as military personnel and used by trauma surgeons, are tested to withstand a minimum of 200 pounds of circumferential pressure. That's the amount of force required to fully occlude the femoral artery, the largest artery in the leg. Anything less and blood continues flowing. The windlass rod, the turning stick that generates that pressure, must handle at least 60 foot-pounds of torque without breaking or deforming. The buckle must hold under 300 plus pounds of tension. And all of this has to work in extreme conditions, minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit to plus 160 degrees. frozen, baking, soaked, covered in blood and mud. Here's the test rig. PVC pipe wrapped in ballistic gel to simulate a human limb, pressure sensor embedded inside to measure circumferential force in real time. We mount the tourniquet, tighten the windlass, and watch the gauge. When the rod breaks or the buckle fails, we note the pressure at failure. We also run temperature stress tests. Freeze the tourniquets overnight, bake them in a car in summer heat, submerge them in water, and then retest to see if performance degrades. Our control is a genuine North American Rescue Cat Gen 7 tourniquet, purchased directly from the manufacturer. It costs about $30. Every counterfeit we test will be measured against this standard. Let's see how the $12 Amazon bestseller holds up. The listing says, Tactical Tourniquet Emergency First Aid Cat-Style Combat Application Military Grade, $12.99. Prime shipping, 7 stars, 3,500 reviews. The photos show a clean, professional-looking tourniquet with the cat logo printed on the band. It looks real. That's the point. But look closer. The seller name is HZXT Op Store. Ships from China. No manufacturer contact information. No batch number, no NSN, no lot code. The cat logo is printed in a slightly wrong font. The letters are a little too wide. The kerning is off. If you didn't have a real one next to it, you'd never notice. It arrives in 2 days in a clear plastic bag. No North American rescue packaging, no tamper-evident seal, no manufacturing date, just the tourniquet and a thin instruction sheet with broken English. Here's what you see when you hold it next to a real cat. The plastic buckle feels lighter, glossier, like cheap toy plastic. The stitching is uneven. Some spots have double stitching, some have single. The thread is thinner. The windlass rod is hollow. Tap it with your fingernail and it sounds tinny, like a cheap pen. A real cat windlass is reinforced nylon with a solid core. It makes a dull thud when you tap it. The Velcro is weaker. You can peel it apart with much less force than the real version, and the weight is wrong. A genuine cat weighs about 60 grams. This one weighs 38. You're missing over a third of the material. Reinforcement layers, proper buckle polymer, industrial Velcro. That makes the real tourniquet work. We mount it on the test limb. Tighten the windlass. The pressure gauge starts climbing. 20 pounds, 40, 60, 80, snap. The windlass rod breaks cleanly in half. 80 pounds of pressure. You need 200 to stop a femoral artery bleed. This tourniquet isn't even halfway there. It is physically incapable of doing the job. But let's say, by some miracle, the windlass held. Let's test the buckle. We put it under tension and crank up the load. At about 120 pounds, the buckle cracks. Not a clean break, it splinters. Sharp plastic edges that would cut the webbing under stress. A real cat buckle is rated to over 300 pounds. Would this tourniquet save your life? No. Would it give you false confidence that makes you bleed out while you think you're doing everything right?
Yes.
That's the product with 4.
7 stars and 3,500 reviews.
Let's move up the price ladder. $18. The listing says authentic military surplus cat tourniquet. It's got branding that looks official. Military fonts, American flag graphics, phrases like used by US military, and NATO approved. The photos are real Department of Defense stock images. Stolen, of course, but they look legitimate. And the price is higher, which triggers a psychological shortcut in your brain. More expensive equals higher quality. People trust this one. They think military surplus means it was actually issued to soldiers and then sold off as excess inventory. That's the implied story. The reality is, it was never issued to anyone. It was manufactured in the same Shenzhen factory as the $12 version, just with slightly better materials and better branding to justify the higher price. It arrives in a generic, clear plastic bag. No sealed North American rescue packaging. No NSN, no manufacturing date, no lot number.
But it looks more convincing than the cheap one.
The cat logo is in the correct font this time. The stitching is cleaner, the windlass rod still feels hollow when you tap it, but it's thicker, and the plastic is slightly harder. We run the stress test. The pressure gauge climbs. 50 pounds, 100, 120, 140. Crack. The windlass rod fractures. Not a clean snap like the $12 version. It splinters lengthwise, which is actually more dangerous because it can fail gradually under tension instead of breaking outright. You might not even realize it's failing until the pressure drops and the bleeding resumes. 140 pounds. That's better than the $12 version, sure. but it's still 30% below the minimum effective pressure. In a real scenario with a real arterial bleed, this tourniquet does not stop the bleeding. Now, let's freeze it. We put 5 of these in a freezer overnight at 0 degrees Fahrenheit and then retest. The windlass becomes brittle. It snaps at 90 pounds of pressure. In a winter survival scenario, car accident on a rural road in January, snowstorm, you're waiting for rescue, this tourniquet is a guaranteed failure. The military surplus branding? Complete lie. This was never issued to anyone, never tested to military standards, never used by NATO. It's a marketing story designed to make you trust garbage. Now let's talk bulk buys. A lot of prepper groups, churches, community organizations, even small businesses want to equip everyone in their group with medical gear. It's smart, in theory, redundancy, preparedness. But then they see the price. A real cat tourniquet is $30. Equipping 20 people is $600. But look, here's an Alibaba listing. 50 cat tourniquets for $250, $5 each. Minimum order quantity 10 to 50 units. You can equip your entire group for half the price, maybe less. So they order 50. It arrives in an unmarked cardboard box. No individual packaging. The tourniquets are loose in plastic bags, some of them touching each other, some with visible dirt or mold on the webbing. Real medical gear is individually sealed and sterile. These are contaminated before you even open the box. That means infection risk the moment you apply one to an open wound. But let's ignore the sterility issue for a moment and focus on functionality. We pull 10 tourniquets at random from the batch and run stress tests. 3 out of 10 snap the windlass rod below 100 pounds. 2 out of 10 have buckles that crack under 150 pounds. 5 out of 10 reach about 180 pounds of pressure, close to the 200-pound standard, but still below it. And 0 out of 10 pass the temperature stress test. After freezing, every single one becomes brittle and fails early. That's a 50% failure rate under optimal conditions. Under field stress, cold, wet, blood slick hands, adrenaline, the failure rate is 100%. You just spent $250 to equip your entire group with expensive trash. Worse, you've created a false sense of security. Everyone thinks they're prepared. They're not. They're carrying gear that will fail when they need it most, and they won't know it until someone is bleeding to death in front of them. Let's talk about how the scam works, because it's not accidental. It's not a few shady sellers sneaking under the radar. This is a systematic industrial-scale fraud with a clear business model, predictable profit margins, and a supply chain that operates with near impunity. It starts in factories in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. These factories produce CAT-style or Israeli bandage-style knockoffs. They use low-grade plastics, thin nylon, weak adhesives. They skip every step of the testing and certification process that legitimate manufacturers go through. No FDA 510K clearance, no military testing protocols. Ask yourself, what's the game to product that still makes to you whatever? Does it look close enough to fool a buyer? The cost to manufacture one of these counterfeits is between $1 and $3 per unit. They package them with stolen branding. They download photos from North American Rescue's website, H&H Medical, Z-Medica, the real manufacturers, and use those images in their listings. They print fake NSN numbers, fake FDA-approved text, sometimes even counterfeit hologram stickers. The goal is to make the product indistinguishable from the real thing in a photograph. Then they distribute through Amazon and eBay using fulfillment by Amazon or third-party logistics. The counterfeit tourniquets are shipped to an Amazon warehouse in the US, stored alongside legitimate products, and when you click buy, they arrive in 2 days with a Prime badge. It looks legitimate. It feels legitimate. Amazon's counterfeit detection is reactive, not proactive. They only remove listings after enough people complain, and by that point, the seller has already moved hundreds or thousands of units. The reviews are fake. They buy 5-star reviews from click farms or bot networks. Real negative reviews, people who realize the gear is fake, get buried in the algorithm or deleted outright by the seller before Amazon notices. And when a storefront finally does get shut down, the seller just opens a new one the next day under a different random name. HZX Top becomes FKRNZO. Same factory, same products, new front. The seller names are shell companies. No physical address, no phone number, no way to contact them for a refund or accountability. If you try to report them, you're filing a complaint with a legal entity that doesn't exist in any jurisdiction that will prosecute. Why can't law enforcement stop it? Because it's a jurisdictional nightmare. The factories are in China, the sellers route payments through intermediaries in Hong Kong or Singapore. The distribution hubs are in the US, but Amazon and eBay are legally considered platforms, not sellers, so they claim they're not liable under Section 230. The FDA is responsible for regulating medical devices, but they're overwhelmed and under-resourced, and counterfeit medical gear deaths are nearly impossible to trace in official statistics. When someone dies, the paperwork says exsanguination or traumatic injury, not counterfeit tourniquet failure. And the profit margin is too high to stop. Even with periodic shutdowns and seized inventory, counterfeiters make massive profit before getting caught. A $3 tourniquet sold for $15 is a 400% markup. Sell 5,000 units before your storefront is banned and you've made $60,000 in profit. Then you open a new storefront and do it again. This isn't going to stop. No one is coming to save you from this. You are the only quality control. So here's how you identify counterfeit gear right now with the equipment you already own. Pull out your tourniquet. Look at the windlass rod. Tap it with your fingernail. A real cat has a solid reinforced core. You'll hear a dull thud. A fake cat is hollow plastic. It sounds tinny, almost like tapping a pen. That's the fastest field test you can do without tools. Now look at the band. A real Cat Gen 7 has a manufacturing date and timestamp laser checked into the nylon webbing. It's crisp and clean, down to the minute. Counterfeits either have no stamp, or the stamp is blurry, smudged, or printed instead of etched. If you can't read it clearly, it's fake. Check the Velcro. Real cat tourniquets use industrial-grade loop Velcro. It takes significant force to peel it apart. You should feel real resistance. Counterfeit Velcro peels easily, almost like cheap hook and loop tape from a dollar store. If you can pull it apart with one hand without straining, it's fake. Weigh it. A real Cat Gen 7 weighs between 60 and 65 grams. Counterfeits usually weigh 35 to 50 grams. You can feel the difference in your hand if you've held a real one. But if you have a kitchen scale, just weigh it. Anything under 55 grams is suspect. Check the packaging. Real cats come in sealed, tamper-evident North American Rescue packaging with a lot number, an expiration date, and an NSN printed on the outside. If it came in a generic plastic bag or no packaging at all, it's fake. Some genuine tourniquets have hologram stickers for anti-counterfeiting, but counterfeiters have started copying those too. Cross-check the serial number on the sticker with North American Rescue's verification database on their website. If it's not in the system, it's fake. Now let's talk general red flags for any medical gear, not just tourniquets. If the price is too low, it's fake. A real cat costs $28 to $35 depending on the vendor. If you see one for under $20, it's counterfeit. No exceptions. If the seller name is gibberish, random strings of letters like ZJ Cop or HXNTO, it's a Chinese dropshipper. Avoid. Check where it ships from. If the listing says ships from China, it's counterfeit. Legitimate North American Rescue tourniquets are manufactured in the U.S. and shipped from U.S. distributors. If there's no manufacturer contact information, no company name, no phone number, no website, no compliance info, it's fake. If the product name says style or type, it's an admission that it's not the real thing. Cat-style tourniquet means not a cat. Israeli bandage type means not an Israeli bandage. They're using that language to avoid trademark infringement lawsuits, but they're also telling you it's a knockoff. Go check your gear right now. I'll wait. So where do you actually buy real gear? First, go direct to the manufacturers. North American Rescue manufactures genuine cat tourniquets. Their website is North American Rescue. They sell directly to civilians. Every tourniquet ships with a certificate of authenticity and a lot number you can verify. If you don't want to buy direct, use authorized distributors. Rescue Essentials is an authorized distributor with a verified supply chain. They supply hospitals, EMS agencies, and military units, and they also sell to civilians. Chinook Medical Gear is another authorized distributor with a strong reputation in the tactical medical community. Tactical Medical Solutions manufactures the Soft T Wide Tourniquet, which is another legitimate option used by military special operations. You can buy directly from them. Medical Gear Outfitters is veteran owned and verifies the authenticity of every product they sell. Here's where you do not buy medical gear: Amazon, unless the seller is the official North American Rescue Store and it explicitly says sold by North American Rescue and ships from North American Rescue. Even then, be cautious. Counterfeiters have been known to hijack legitimate seller accounts. Do not buy from eBay. Do not buy from Wish. Do not buy from AliExpress. Do not buy from random Shopify dropshipping sites with names like Tactical Gear Pro or Survival Outfitters that have no verifiable business address. Do not trust bulk deals or military surplus claims from unknown sellers. If it sounds too good to be true, it's counterfeit. Spend the extra $15. Your life is worth more than the cost of a cheap knockoff. It's not just tourniquets. The entire tactical medical industry is compromised. Take Israeli bandages. The real product, manufactured by First Care Products in Israel, is a pressure dressing with a sterile pad, elastic wrap, and a built-in pressure bar. It's designed to maintain constant pressure on a wound to control bleeding. The counterfeit versions use thin, non-sterile gauze. The pressure bar is made of brittle plastic that snaps under tension. The elastic loses its stretch after one use, sometimes even before. So you apply it, you think you've stopped the bleeding, and then the pressure drops and the bleeding resumes. Worse, because the materials aren't sterile, you're introducing bacteria directly into an open wound. Infection, sepsis, death, or hemostatic gauze, Quicklot, Celox, brands that are used by the military for life-threatening hemorrhage. Real hemostatic gauze is impregnated with kaolin or chitosan, compounds that accelerate blood clotting on contact. Counterfeit hemostatic gauze is just plain gauze. We tested this. We applied real quick clot to fresh animal blood from a butcher. Within 30 seconds, you see a visible clot forming. Thick, gelatinous, the blood stops flowing. No clotting. You think it's working, but the person is still bleeding internally, and by the time you realize the gauze isn't doing anything, they're in shock. Real chest seals, like the Hi-Fin or Halo, are vented adhesive seals for penetrating chest wounds. They prevent air from being sucked into the chest cavity through the wound, which causes a collapsed lung and then tension pneumothorax, which is fatal if not treated. We applied counterfeit Quicklot to the same blood. It soaked it up like a paper towel. No clotting, no chemical reaction, just red gauze. Then there are chest seals. Counterfeit chest seals have weak adhesive that peels off the moment the skin is wet. The vent valve either doesn't function at all or is blocked by manufacturing defects. The adhesive is medical grade and works even on bloody, sweaty skin. The vent valve allows air to escape from the chest cavity without letting more air in. That's the pattern. Counterfeit gear doesn't just underperform. It creates false confidence. You think you're prepared? You're not. You think the gear will work. You slap it on a chest wound, the seal peels off, air keeps leaking into the chest cavity, the lung collapses, the person dies. You did everything you were trained to do, but the gear failed. Section 230 of US law treats Amazon and eBay as platforms, not publishers or sellers. They're not legally liable for third-party seller fraud in most cases. It won't. And by the time you find out, it's too late. So why does this keep happening? Why isn't anyone stopping it? Because the platforms have legal immunity. They make money on every transaction, real or fake. So there's no financial incentive to invest in proactive counterfeit detection. The FDA is supposed to regulate medical devices. They only remove listings after consumer complaints, and even then it's slow and inconsistent. Amazon's Fulfillment by Amazon program allows them to store and ship counterfeit products while claiming they don't own or control the inventory. They rely on consumer complaints, and most people don't even know their gear is fake until it's too late. By the time someone dies and the family realizes the tourniquet was counterfeit, the seller is gone and the listing is deleted. Real tourniquets, chest seals, and hemostatic gauze require 510K clearance, which means they've been tested and approved for medical use. But the FDA doesn't have the resources to police online marketplaces. Here's the moral calculation. If you buy counterfeit electronics, they might break. You lose money. Annoying, but not fatal. If you buy counterfeit medical gear, it breaks when you're bleeding to death. Customs enforcement is focused on drugs, weapons, and large-scale smuggling operations. Counterfeit medical gear is low priority. And the counterfeits come in small packages labeled as camping gear or training aids, so they slip through without inspection. No one is coming to fix this system. You are the only quality control. Let me show you what it actually costs to equip yourself properly with real gear. You lose your life. There's no recall system for the dead. There's no class action lawsuit that brings you back. You're just gone, and the counterfeiters move on to the next victim. A hyphen vent chest seal twin pack from North American Rescue, $15. A box of 100 nitrile gloves, $10. Trauma shears, $5. A permanent marker to write the time of tourniquet application, $2. A genuine CatGen 7 tourniquet from North American Rescue, $30. A real Israeli emergency bandage from First Care Products, $8. Quick Clot Combat Gauze from Z-Medica, $5. Fake Israeli bandage, $6. Fake Quick Clot, $12. Fake chest seal, $8. Gloves, shears, marker, same price. Total, about $60 for the counterfeit kit. Total cost, about $105 for a complete individual trauma kit, with legitimate life-saving gear. Compare that to the counterfeit version. Fake tourniquet, $15. A counterfeit tourniquet costs $15 plus your life. You're not saving money. You're prepaying for your funeral. But even real gear is useless if you don't know how to use it. You're saving $45. That's the price difference between real gear and counterfeit. $45. A genuine tourniquet costs $30. If you place it near the wound, you're leaving room for blood to flow around it through collateral vessels. High and tight. That's the protocol. Second mistake, not tightening it enough. The most common mistake with tourniquets, even with real functional tourniquets, is placing them too low on the limb. A tourniquet must go high and tight, as close to the torso or pelvis as possible. That requires significant force. Tighten the windlass until the bleeding stops, then do one more full turn for good measure. Third mistake, failing to note the time. A properly applied tourniquet should be painful. If it's merely uncomfortable, it's not tight enough. You're trying to completely occlude arterial blood flow. The medical team needs to know how long the tourniquet has been on so they can make decisions about limb salvage versus amputation. If you don't mark the time, you're making their job harder and risking worse outcomes. You must write the time of tourniquet application on the tourniquet itself or on the victim's forehead with a permanent marker. After about 2 hours, the tissue below the tourniquet starts dying from lack of blood flow. It's a 1 to 2 hour course that covers tourniquet application, wound packing, and pressure dressings. It's free. Go take it. If you spend time in remote or wilderness areas, take a wilderness first aid or wilderness first responder course. So, where do you get training? Stop the Bleed is a free nationwide civilian trauma training program. It's offered by trauma centers, hospitals, and EMS agencies all over the country. These are 2-day to 9-day courses that cover medical response when your hours or days from definitive care. If you want more advanced training, look into civilian tactical combat casualty care courses. These cover chest seals, needle decompression, airway management, skills that go beyond basic hemorrhage control, and practice. Buy training tourniquets, they're blue or orange so you don't confuse them with real ones, and practice applying them on yourself and others. Time yourself. Can you apply a tourniquet one-handed in under 30 seconds? Can you do it in the dark? Can you do it when you're cold, tired, and your hands are shaking? No one is coming to save you. In a true collapse scenario, in a remote emergency, in the middle of a disaster when the grid is down and the hospitals are overwhelmed, there is number 911. There is no medevac helicopter. There is no trauma surgeon. Your medical gear is your only option. And if that gear is counterfeit, you have nothing. Counterfeit gear is worse than no gear. If you have no gear, you know you have a problem. You improvise. You use a belt, a shirt, a stick. It's not ideal, but you're aware of the situation and you're adapting. If you have fake gear, you have false confidence. You think you're doing everything right. You apply the tourniquet, you tighten it, you think the bleeding is stopped, and then the windlass snaps and the person bleeds out while you're standing there holding broken plastic. You wasted time. You wasted the narrow window where intervention could have worked. That's worse than having nothing. The industry won't police itself. Amazon makes money whether the gear is real or fake. The counterfeiters operate with impunity because the legal system can't keep up with the speed and scale of the fraud. You are the only quality control. You are the only person who will verify that the gear in your kit is real. No one else is going to do it for you. So here's what you do right now. Stop reading. Go to your medical kit. Pull out your tourniquet, your chest seal, your hemostatic gauze. Check the manufacturer, check the packaging, check the weight, the stitching, the windlass rod. If you don't recognize the brand, if you can't verify it with the manufacturer, if it came from Amazon or eBay and you're not 100% certain it's real, throw it away. You're not wasting money. You're eliminating a liability. That counterfeit tourniquet is not an asset, it's a trap. It's sitting in your kit waiting to fail at the worst possible moment.
Get rid of it, then buy real gear from authorized vendors.
North American Rescue, Rescue Essentials. Chinook Medical. Spend the extra $15 or $20. Your life is worth more than a cheap knockoff. And get trained. Gear without knowledge is just expensive trash. Take a Stop the Bleed course. Practice until tourniquet application is automatic. Until you can do it in the dark with your non-dominant hand, until you can talk someone else through it over a radio while they're panicking. Because when the moment comes, and it will come statistically for someone you know, there will be no second chances, no do-overs, no time to order the real gear from Amazon and wait 2 days. There's just you, the person bleeding in front of you, and the gear in your hands. A $15 fake tourniquet won't kill you when you buy it, it'll kill you when you need it. And by then, it's too late to leave a bad review.